What's up, YouTube? This is Josh Pillault, the RuneScape Felon, back again with your absolute favorite YouTube series of all time, Tales from the Jungle, episode number 9. Today, we're going to be discussing an incident that I've already talked about in my Twitch chat and on my Twitch channel. It's actually become kind of a channel meme for my Twitch, which is the most brutal 1-versus-1 fight that I ever witnessed while I was in prison. Now, it might not be brutal in the sense of knives, etc., etc. It's more brutal in the sense of absolutely being unrelenting when the victory had already been acquired. Like I said, this has become a bit of a meme, and there is graphic language in this one because I'm going to basically attempt to recreate the way that this argument unfolded in the first place and show you how absurd a lot of these prison fights really are and how dumb. I mean, it's basically when you get 2,000 men in the same small area and every single one of them thinks that they are the toughest guy on the planet Earth, that slung the most dope and had the most women and was the richest of all. The battle of the egos is inevitable, and this is a prime example of that happening. Twitch chat knows this is the Panama story, but I guess I'll expound upon it just a wee bit more. Long story short, short story long, I was sitting next to the legendary softball field at Talladega FCI, Talladega, Alabama. I was sitting there playing guitar like I always was. I played guitar like 6 to 7 hours a day typically in prison. Just always sitting out there strumming away, running my scales, however I needed to pass my time is what I was doing with the guitar. We were sitting next to the shuffleboard court, as usual. I mean, there's only like 2 sets of bleachers next to the softball field, so anytime that I'm sitting there, either these bleachers were next to the shuffleboard court or these ones were. Either way, I mean, the bleachers were kind of set up like this and the shuffleboard court was right here. But I was sitting to the ones where the shuffleboard court was to the right of me, playing guitar, hanging out with my friends. And on this day, I think that there was a major sporting event around this time. Perhaps it was the Super Bowl. During the Super Bowl, toilet wine, I never actually saw wine being made in a toilet, but prison wine, buck, hooch, the toilet sauce, whatever you want to call it, is very, very popular during that time frame. There's also a way for people to make homemade, or I guess prison-made moonshine, believe it or not. We call it White Lightning. Sometimes it's called buck specifically, or they just call it shine. It's used by taking a set of hair clippers, cutting off the clippers, separating the wires, attaching each side of a wire to a piece of metal in a very complicated process wherein basically they boil the alcohol out of the water and capture it in a garbage bag. I never helped anybody do it. I'm only vaguely aware of scientifically its possibility, and I will not sit here and deny that I ever drank any. I've most certainly had some. This stuff is hangover sauce like you would not believe, okay? But it was very popular. It was one of these times of the year around Christmas, Super Bowl, major sporting events, March Madness, things like that. Wine and moonshine are very, very common on prison yards. So it was pretty obvious that these two guys had been drinking, but there was a herd of, 3 to 4, maybe 6 tops. I'd say it was probably about 6 group of black guys sitting on the shuffleboard court. And they had been drinking, clearly. They were loud and being very braggadocious and extremely egotistical. And both of these guys were from Florida. Now, being in federal prison taught me a lot about the regions of the South, as well as some other parts of America. But the fact that I primarily served my time in Southern federal prisons, I can now tell Southern accents apart. I can tell the very odd breed of people that are Floridians apart from other groups of people. And I'm not sure if this is just in the feds or not because I'm not from Florida, but a lot of the black dudes in prison will they have a different kind of dreadlocks. They'll dreadlock their hair and they kind of do this thing where they stitch it together sort of. Personally, I think it's kind of cool looking, but it comes out in these wild designs, and I'd never witnessed that before I went to the feds. And I had, those 2 first black cellmates that I had for 30 minutes before some white guys told me I had to move out of the cell. Those guys told me that was a Florida thing. I was like, man, some of these dudes grow their hair out really long. And they're like, those dudes that stitch it together and weave it back together and stuff like that, that's normally a Florida thing. So I thought that was interesting. But turns out these guys were apparently both from the region of Panama. Panama City or Panama City Beach. Not sure the specifics. I'm not from Florida. So these guys were evidently in for distributing cocaine, as I like to call it since Dewey Cox's movie came out, cocaine. They were the salesmen of the cocaine and cocaine accessories, okay? They sell cocaine and cocaine accessories. So one of these guys started getting a little bit louder than the other one, claiming that he had, in fact, manufactured higher amounts of cocaine as well as distributed greater quantities of cocaine to the general public around the Panama City area. So if you're not catching what I'm saying here, this guy was bragging about how much more cocaine he had sold than the other guy. This is a pretty common thing in prison for people to try to one-up each other on basically any topic that happens to come up. It's really funny because it'll be bad stuff. Like if you're around like the middle-aged guys, one of them will say, oh man, you know, it's just that I got this messed up hip, man. And the next guy will say, man, I got that messed up hip and this ankle, bro, this ankle right here. And then the next guy's like, man, I got my hip, my ankle, my neck, my back. I'm suing for $150,000. All right, Friday reference. But anyways, and then at the same time, they'll start talking about fights that they were in and how they'll still piece anybody all up. It's like everybody has to be the top of everything. You start talking about how it was being poor when you grew up. He's going to come in with, man, I was eating them ketchup crackers, dog. And then you say, but then I started making the money. He's going to say, man, then I was eating lobster every day. Like, it's just, you cannot win. Dudes in prison got to be number one at everything. They got to be the most messed up from injuries, the most mentally ill, the toughest, the richest, the poorest, the brokest, the weakest. Like, it's a massive ego thing. So these dudes were arguing about who had sold more of the cocaine in Panama City. This dude was going off the chain, man. And I could kind of hear the guy arguing with him, but the main guy was super, super loud. And essentially, this is what we got from our end of picking up the story. Boy, you don't say nothing about no Panama, boy. You ain't never sold no blow in motherfucking Panama, boy. Boy, I run Panama, man. I done sold 150 trillion kilos of cocaine to Panama, boy. You don't know nothing about that Panama, all right? Listen, you back the hell up, boy. You're talking about my turf now. Man, you don't know nothing about Panama. You ain't never set foot in Panama, boy. I sold a trillion grams. I was bringing it in from China, boy. I was bringing it in from Bolivia. I was bringing it in from Colombia, man. You don't know nothing about no cocaine, man. I was selling that blood. So then you got the other guy down here that's being a little bit quieter than him, probably to not attract attention to the fact that they were drunk. There were a lot of inmates on the yard this day. Any loud altercation like this will attract the attention of the COs. And you got this guy who's sitting on the ground over here. Bruh, I ain't even listening to what you're saying, bruh. Bruh, I sold that coke, bruh. I was moving weight. You can move weight too, but I was moving weight. Like he was kind of being, I guess, like a little bit more reasonable, or like I said, probably not trying to attract the attention of the COs, whereas this other guy just was not concerned about it in the slightest. So the loud guy, who is clearly more intoxicated of the two, is being more and more aggressive and loud about it. Every time this dude says cocaine, it's like this guy gets triggered because nobody on the planet Earth knows anything about cocaine other than him. And also another bragging point is that the guy apparently had 20 or 30 year sentence. Inmates will oftentimes use their sentence as a bragging right of how hardcore they are. Like the more time that they have, they must be tougher than you. They must be more evil than you. They must be more deranged. It's kind of part of the whole anti-society aspect that I've talked about before. The more horrendous the crime, other than ones involving children and women, are more respected than vice versa. The guy that's in here because he, sold 200 kilos of meth is going to be maximum respect right beneath like guys who murdered bounty hunters or cops. That's the ultimate, that's a solid dude. He's got a good charge. He's legit. He checks out. He's a solid guy, solid dude. And they're talking about murderers, unless you did something with some kids or any kind of sex crime like that, then that's, once again, just viewed as normal society as the evil guys. The only difference is in prison, they'll take it out on you. So eventually the one guy leaps up and he said, man, I ain't trying to hear none of this, bro. I'm tired of this. I ain't trying to hear no more of this. And he starts walking off or whatever. And the dude grabs his shoulder to kind of the loud guy grabs onto the quieter guy's shoulder like he's going to turn him and make him listen to his stories of exactly how much of the cocaine he was selling out there in Panama City. Screaming, boy, you don't know shit about Panama. Boy, you don't know shit about Panama, boy. It's a big meme on my Twitch channel now. It's one of my alerts for my alert boxes, as a matter of fact, from the first time I told this story. Well, no sooner does the barker grab the guy's shirt than the biter that was not barking turns around and clocks him. And I'm talking about a good straight jab right to the chin. So the dude backs up a little, right? I think I've mentioned this before. Maybe it was on Twitch when I mentioned, but there were two shuffleboard courts side by side. One of them was a bit higher than the other. They were both ringed in bricks. So there was a bit of maybe a 1.5 foot step down between the two shuffleboard courts, right? Well, the guy that got clocked is obviously a little dizzy. He leans forward and grabs the guy, and they kind of grapple a little, right? Because he was just trying not to get decked in the mouth anymore. So, losing the fight, grapple up. So he grabs onto the dude, and he starts trying to, keep his arms by his side or whatever. Well, the quieter guy, this is very common in prison, that the guys that aren't talking the shit and trying to act tough and the guys that you wouldn't expect are the ones that are about to beat the brakes off of you, wriggles up out of his grasp, still kind of has his arms pinned down by his side so that he was incapable of catching an uppercut on him or anything like that, wriggles down a little bit, grabs the dude underneath his pants, and I'm talking about he suplexed him backwards. I've never seen such a suplex in my entire life. This was straight up WWE, WWF, whatever you want to call it. I don't remember. I don't watch wrestling. WWE. He completely went backwards because his foot hit the edge of the step up, when they were grappling. And he used that leverage to grab this dude and flung him 180 degrees over his head backwards. And needless to say, the louder guy hit first because he was the one that was getting, you know, thrown. And they both went down together. The guy who received the suplex, the loud guy, the cocaine guy, was instantly unconscious. He slammed his head on the ground with an audible thud that made the entire rec yard go. Instantly, I see blood pouring out of his eyebrow, and like it looked like it was coming out of his ear over here. I mean, like he was just out cold, dude. I mean, surely severe concussion. I was not at this point thoroughly convinced that this guy was going to get up. I thought he probably needed a hospital. I wouldn't have been surprised if he had a hemorrhage of some sort and started having a seizure. But this did not deter the quieter guy, who wasted no time whatsoever in straddling the guy's chest. And while this dude is 100% unconscious on the ground like this, is boom, just ragdolling this guy's head back and forth. It was snapping and bouncing around. And he probably hit him a good 8 or 9 times before the other Florida guys came over there and grabbed him and pulled him off of him. And I mean, this dude, I was sitting there legit wondering if this guy might be dead. Not only from the crushing blow of being suplexed directly onto his forehead on concrete from a 1.5 foot step up, plus the guy's height, but also these blows to this guy's face. I mean, his lips were shattered, his nose was broken. I mean, just blood all pouring out all over the place. And the Florida guys ran over there and broke him up and dragged him off. And, you know, after a few minutes, I saw the guy kind of start coming to, and I'm like, oh my God, man. And, you know, I mean, I don't know if the alcohol had anything to do with the fact that he went out, you know, or I don't know. But he ragdolled, and this dude did not stop. It was very, very brutal watching this guy deliver completely full force punches straight to this guy's chin and watching his head just bounce around like a dodgeball. I mean, the dude was just absolutely ruthless with it. His friends wouldn't have come over there and stopped him. He probably just killed the guy. I mean, alcohol and ego is just not a good mix. So inmates are pretty good at keeping this stuff hush-hush. Shortly after they dragged the guy off, a couple inmates ran over there with bottles of Coke, or cans of Coke rather. Yes, we have cans of soda for some reason. So they crack it open, they're pouring it on the shuffleboard court, you know, because soda helps dissolve blood apparently quite well. So they're scrubbing it around, putting t-shirts on the ground and wiping the blood up and stuff like that, which stone is porous. So, I mean, it was still a stain there, but it didn't look fresh or anything like that. To the best of my knowledge, the COs never found out about this. Apparently, it was a successful cover-up because the Florida guys dragged this guy off, brought him into the bathroom. He got himself cleaned up as best as he could. And then you go with the typical, oh, I was playing wall ball out there. Or handball, not wall ball, good grief. Dudes play handball a lot, and they'll, you know, accidentally slap each other in the face. And if you're not having a huge ego about it, it's your homie, they'll get over it. But there are a couple bangs and bruises from there. So that's the go-to story in prison when a CO sees you. Why are you beat up, man? What's the matter with you? When I got in the fight with the white crib, you can go check out my other video on that, and my stuff was all swollen up like that. I told him I had a gum infection, which it's not like he was about to try and make sure I got medical attention. He's like, all right, go die then. I hope you get a brain infection, you know. Whereas in this case, you know, the dude was probably swollen quite a good bit. I didn't see him for 5 or 6 days. That's the norm. When you get in a bad fight in prison, you're normally supposed to lay low. The only reason that I went out with my face swollen up was because I had a visitation that I was not about to miss after my friends came and got a hotel room and spent the time to come visit and everything. But the fight was pretty brutal. I mean, watching this guy just absolutely ruthlessly wailing on a guy that was out, okay? I lost my fair share of fights in prison, and I won my fair share of fights in prison. And if I hit somebody and I was winning and they stopped trying to actively fight me back, I was done. The point was proven. There is no... But it's not like that in prison. In prison, it's about who can do the most damage, period. It doesn't matter if you throw a cup of boiling baby oil in the guy's face. You know, dudes used to microwave baby oil. That's why a lot of federal prisons are taking out baby oil and microwaves, because you can boil it to insane temperatures and throw it on somebody's face and their face will melt off. It's not about honor. It's not about, you know, doing the right thing. It's not about giving a fair fight. It's about how bad can you hurt that other person. I was never like that. And luckily for me, none of the people that I ever lost to were like that. They had some honor about themselves as well. That's not very common in prison. So if you ever come hang out on my Twitch chat, if you're wondering why everybody says Panama or exclamation point Panama or what the alert is whenever I get either, I think it's a subscription, is boy, you don't know shit about Panama. Everybody starts, you can hear it scream in the background. That's where it comes from, because this guy did in fact know shit about Panama, and he proved it to the guy that apparently sold 78 quadrillion kilos in Panama City, Florida. The other guy, I guess by virtue of having beat him up, I guess we must assume that he knew shit about Panama. I mean, that's why you fight somebody, right? If they're wrong, you beat them up and then you're right, right? Isn't that how it works? Have I just been in prison too long? I think that's how it works, right? Right? So anyways, glad that I could get back to a Tales from the Jungle, guys. That was episode number 9. The time that the cokeheads fought about Panama, I guess. Things are going great on Twitch. I hope everybody comes to hang out. The Twitch is twitch.tv/jpillault. I know it's a duty to spell, so I'll leave a link in the description along with things such as my Discord, the Gram, the Twitter, all that good stuff right down there in the description. Come check it out, come support. I'm about to start working on my Patreon because I just recently realized that I set up my Patreon. I didn't ever really get back on it, and I've had people like 6 Patreon supporters, and I have delivered absolutely no content since the day I set that page up. So I'm gonna get on that because I feel really guilty now. So within the next few days, the Patreon will have some exclusives. I'll probably be recording some of my music that I haven't released to the public yet, or maybe extra stories and stuff. We'll figure it out. But if you're a Patreon supporter, thank you. Because I kind of forgot that I had set that up. And I'm sorry if I'm taking money out. All the money was there, don't worry. It made me feel really guilty, and I promise you I'll deliver very, very soon, okay? Hope you guys are all staying safe during this pandemic. I hope that you are staying free. Hope that you're staying smart. Don't catch the wait, I'm not supposed to say it. Don't catch the illness. Don't go around doing anything stupid just yet, guys. We're having some spikes and stuff. Just stay safe, wash your hands, be patient. I know it's not fun. I love you guys, man. You have a beautiful week. I'll be back next week with another episode of maybe Tales from the Jungle or something else. I don't know what I'm going to do next week yet. I need to start planning it out. Love you guys, man. Take it easy.